Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Mr. Waller.
And good morning to all of our parents, grandparents, and guests. Welcome to the Riverside School's Moving-On ceremony. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and to sing our national anthem. Class President Andrew Spazovich will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the landwards we marched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets heard blare of bombs bursting in air. They flew through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Welcome again to our Moving On ceremony. Our event this morning is to celebrate our students who are transitioning from Riverside to attend new schools next year. But we'd also like to recognize some other special achievements. First, we are honored this morning to have in attendance the founder of Riverside School, Mrs. Pat Diorio. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat, for the gift of Riverside. It's been a gift to so many families and students over the years. Next, I'd like to recognize the members of our Board of Trustees who are in attendance this morning. Our Board of Trustees includes past parents, current parents, alumni, and friends of the school who volunteer their time and their wisdom in setting the vision for our school and in helping us achieve that vision. When I call your name, please stand and be recognized. Mr. Bill Longan, President of the Board. Thank you. Ms. Crystal Telfian. Mrs. Amy Jones, Secretary of the Board. And are there any board members whom I missed? I would also like for all of our teachers and staff to please stand. Wait, keep standing. You're going to have to clap again. I wanted to say Riverside has a wonderful mission and an amazing way of achieving that mission, but what makes all of the difference in your students' lives are these teachers. And we have expert and dedicated teachers, and we owe them a great deal of gratitude. Thank you. And Paige Jerry, would you please stand? All right. I would like to especially recognize Mrs. Fury because this is her last year that she'll be with us here at Riverside. She has been offered and accepted a position within Enrico Schools. Paige, it has been a pleasure working with you. We're happy and excited for your next steps, but you are going to very much be missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the next part of our program, I introduce to you Mrs. Susie Eklund, of our director of our language fundamentals program.
Thank you. So here at Riverside, our language fundamentals classes are the hallmark of our Riverside experience. Our curriculum utilizes the Orton-Gillingham methodology to allow students to unlock the logic and the patterns that live behind the structure of the English language. Students progress through our curriculum at 3 different levels, beginning with primary, moving on to intermediate, and then to advanced, and each student progresses at their own pace. A completion of our entire curriculum is actually something that very few of our students achieve every year. And it demonstrates a deep understanding of our language that will basically serve them in their academic endeavors and for the rest of their lives. This year we have 3 students who have achieved the Mastery of Advanced Language Fundamentals Skills Award. That's a mouthful. And as I call each student to receive their certificate of award, I would also like to ask their LF teachers to stand and be recognized. First, we have Garrison King. And his LF teachers are Mrs. Haas and Mrs. Lundmark. All right, Mr. Congratulations, and there you go. Next, we have Polly Crumbine. And Tolly's LF teachers have been Mrs. Piltz, and Mrs. Brickley, and Mrs. Cross. And lastly, we have Daniel Williams. He is not able to be here with us today, but I would still like to recognize his LF teachers, Mrs. Haas and Mrs. Raper. I would now like to welcome Andrew back to the podium so he can recognize today's alumni speaker.
We're excited to have Mr. Tuck Baltecki, a Riverside alumnus, come back and speak with us today. As a number of us move on and also become alumni, after today, I hope we will all stay in touch with Riverside like Mr. Baltecki has over the years. Tuck Baltecki came to Riverside in 2003 and was here for 5 years. After he left Riverside, Mr. Baltecki went to graduate from Benedictine in 2014. He is currently studying industrial and systems engineering at Virginia Tech, and he will be graduating next spring. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tuck Baltecki to Riverside.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Miss D, Mr. Waller, teachers, students, and parents. My name is Tuck Baltecki, and I had the privilege of attending Riverside School through 2nd through 7th grade. Before I like to begin my speech, I'd like to take a moment of gratitude. First, I'd like to thank my parents for sending me to Riverside School and for raising me. Second, I'd like to thank Riverside School for the honor of speaking on at this Moving On ceremony. And finally, I'd like to thank Ms. D for starting this great school. 1 year from now, if all goes well, I will graduate from Virginia Tech with a degree in industrial and systems engineering with a minor in business. I was 6 years old when I was diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and ADHD. At that time, of course, I really didn't understand those big words. But thankfully, my parents figured out a way to send me to a little school called Riverside. When I arrived at Riverside, I didn't know how to read, I didn't know how to sit still, and every day in the classroom was filled with frustration. I needed everything Riverside had to offer, overtime with one-on-one tutoring and individual attention. I started to learn. It was not a sprint. It was a very long and slow marathon. And some years, I grew a lot, and other years, I stayed about the same. But by the time I left after my 7th grade year, I was fully prepared in English, math, and in reading. My mother always said that Riverside preserved my self-image as a student and gave me a love of learning. These are lifelong gifts. Thank you, Riverside. After I left Riverside, I went to 8th grade at St. Benedict's Catholic School for 1 year. Then I enrolled at Benedictine College Preparatory, where I flourished academically. I believe I was successful at Benedictine in part due to the small classroom size and the structure of the military environment. Thank you, Mr. Curtis. One of the most shocking things that ever happened to me at Benedictine was that as a graduating senior, I was awarded the English Award from Coach Arnold, the most notorious and difficult, challenging English teacher at that school. I had received an A in his class, which was an enormous achievement for a non-dyslexic student. But for me, wow. Maybe everyone entering high school should have an LF tutor. Happily, I was accepted into Virginia Tech, and I didn't get into the college engineering right off the bat. At first, I really struggled with the curriculum of college. But I knew, and that's when I knew I needed help. So I reached out to the Student Disability Center at Virginia Tech, and they provided me the accommodations and support I needed to be successful in college. And after a lot of hard work and late nights, I was able to transfer into my current major. And now I'm only 1 year away from getting an engineering degree from one of the most prestigious programs in the United States. It's not truly in my nature to brag about myself, but I know that it may help some of the students here today to hear what's possible, and I know it may help some of the parents today know what the kids are capable of. I'm telling you all else today to inspire you about the person you can become after attending Riverside School. And if you want to become successful in any school, you simply have to put a lot of effort into school, into your schoolwork, your extracurricular activities, and community involvement. I love giving back. More importantly, it's okay to ask for help a lot, because when you're taught something right off the bat, you don't always get it. You need to find resources at your school to help strengthen your ability to learn. And finally, find ways to step outside your comfort zone every day. Riverside is a small school full of people who have a lot in common. And I want all of you to try and surround yourself with different types of people with different types of backgrounds and abilities. It is a great gift to branch out and to grow and step out your comfort zone. I am a proud graduate and product of Riverside. I cannot thank Ms. D enough for starting the school in the basement of her house. I also want to thank all my teachers and my LF tutors. Best wishes to the graduates and students here today. Thank you again for the honor of speaking in front of y'all today. And remember, you can do anything you set your mind to. Just work hard and believe in yourself. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome to the podium Mrs. Sarah Sculthorpe, our Student Council Advisor.
Here at Riverside, Student Council plays an important role in the lives of our students. In addition to meeting regularly to discuss aspects of student affairs, our Student Council raised funds for various charity organizations, including Children's Hospital, Souls to Share, and Worth Days. I would like to recognize first our classroom representatives, Joni Hopkins, Katie Grimm, George Six, and Finn Weissleader. And I would like to recognize our student council officers. Our historian this year was Victoria Hartson. She's unable to be here today. Treasurer was Jake Raper. Our secretary was Jack Chumbris. Vice President Tolly Crumbine. And our president this year was Andrew Spazovic. I would now like to welcome to the podium Bill Longan, President of our Board of Trustees.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Longan. I have the wonderful privilege of being the president of the Board of Trustees of Riverside School. To the best of my knowledge, I am the first adult dyslexic to be in this role, and I can't even begin to tell you what an honor and privilege that is for me and how much I'm getting out of it personally, having that perspective. Pat, I'm so excited you're here. If you don't know this, no Pat DiOrio, no Riverside School. It's just that simple. So if you have an opportunity to say hello, if you haven't met her yet this morning, you may want to just take an opportunity to do this. I've been involved here for a while, and I don't recall a time in the past when I've seen this much momentum. It's remarkable, and I'll touch on just a couple of things. One of the reasons we have so much momentum right now is we have a working board, a hard-working board. Everyone works. And the result that we're getting from this is remarkable. And it certainly makes, I won't say it makes my job easier, but it certainly makes my job very rewarding and very fulfilling to have so many committed, hardworking, there are no job descriptions. Whatever it takes, it gets done. And if you've been involved with nonprofits, you know that that's not always the case, but that's certainly the case here. We're going to have some exciting news soon about Riverside School's accreditations. Not quite yet, we're just about there. But you will be hearing about this, and this is an enormous step forward for this school as far as what we can achieve on many, many different levels. A lot of hard work went into that, but I think we're very close to having that. Number two, Riverside is growing. Does everybody know that Riverside's growing? Huh?
No, this is my first year here.
Okay. Well,
I'm a New Yorker. I miss New York, but I think the first time here I've been doing that.
okay, good. All right. Well, thank you for that. Riverside is growing, and we are in the process of finishing up an arrangement with St. Michael's School, and we anticipate that we are going to be raising the enrollment in September by an additional building that we will be leasing from St. Michael's School. This is first. We've never done it before, and it looks as if the enrollment may be going from 70 to about 80. Hal works every single day making sure that we're prepared and staffed. That is a huge news for this school. And finally, I just want to mention 100% participation with the annual fund. Thank you very much, Cindy Giacello, our developmental director. Also, I want to thank our excellent development committee. You all did a terrific job, but we really hit some major home runs with that. And for all of you who participated, this is a big vote of confidence for Riverside. And look at it that way. This is a vote that you've given yourself, that you believe in the momentum and success that we're having here. But finally, almost, some things are changing with regards to this topic. And I want everybody to be aware of that. Some things are changing. If you looked back in the 1930s, before the Orton-Gillingham process started to evolve, there was a term for this, and it was called word blindness. That was the term back in the 30s. I can tell you, being a dyslexic, it's not a modern term, but I kind of like that term, because that kind of describes what it's like, of being able to look at a printed page and literally not seeing some parts of it. So the term was word blindness. Not a term we use now. We are at a point where this whole topic is moving on, and we are all of you, look at me, all of you. We're no longer being viewed as something that's broken, that has to be fixed. That's an obsolete, out-of-date vision of this. I recommend that you take a look at a website called Made by Dyslexia. It just came out about 2 years ago, and it talks about all of the remarkably cool things about you if you are dyslexic in terms of what you can achieve and what you can accomplish in your lifetime. Made by Dyslexia. It's a new website. Secondly, there have been some really interesting and clever TED Talks recently, a couple since the first of the year. So take a look, just search for a couple of TED Talks. There was a few back in January that were pretty clever, pretty humorous about some of the advantages and benefits that are available to you. I will finish and then I'll introduce our wonderful speaker today. I talked to Hal back in September about having adult dyslexics come in and speak to the students once a month. And I said, since this was my bright idea, I'll go first. And so we had someone every month. Our speaker today was one of our speakers. And I heard a number of them. I didn't hear all of them, but I heard a number of them. And there were two themes, and no one got coached, by the way. You were just said, here's a chair, here are the students, knock yourself out. That was it. And so we had lots of different people from different types of backgrounds, all of whom are successful in their own unique way. And there were two themes that just kept coming up over and over again. You're going to have to work harder. That's it. I got nothing more. You're going to have to work harder, but in that, you will be developing work habits and work skills that employers are going to fall all over themselves trying to get. So you're going to have good work habits because that's going to be a key component to your success. And finally, you think differently. And celebrate the fact that you think differently. Celebrate the fact that you solve problems differently. And those two themes came up with every single one of the speakers, and none of the speakers were coached ahead of time to bring those points up. So I think that's been something that's been kind of fun that we have talked about. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Tom Dorsey. We're very fortunate to have Tom be available to speak to us. Tom was a successful investment guy like me. Some big differences in our directions, but I was in the investment business for 40 years, as was Tom. I'm going to borrow from one of our presidents. Tom Dorsey wrote 9 books. I think I've read 9 books. He's an expert on point and figure charts and has been recognized globally for that. He's been recognized by the community for all that he has contributed and all that he has achieved. He's been recognized by governors. He's been recognized by his alma mater on more than one occasion as with VCU with the success that he's had in business. He is recognized within his age group as a power lifter. I can start a lawnmower, so that's about it. He's a hot air balloon pilot. I can't imagine why anybody would want to get up in something like that. And he has run from the north to the south of India, which I do a spinning class at the YMCA occasionally. So that's about it. But anyway, Tom, please come on up. We're delighted to hear what you have to say. Tom was one of the adult dyslexics that spoke this year, and he gave a great talk, and he has an understanding of everybody sitting right in front of us, just as I do. And thank you, Tom.
Bill, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I don't know how I can follow that. One of the best things that happened to me today was meeting Pat DiOrio. I mean, I'm one of you. And when I came to speak before, it's the first time I ever felt I belonged. I've spoken to university graduating school classes. I've spoken around the world on investing. I've been everywhere you can think of. But the most important talk that I've ever given was a few months ago here. And I said that to a group in Las Vegas the other day, as I was speaking to them, investment advisors. This was the most important class. You see, I'm one of you. And there was never any school or anyone to determine what my problem was. When I was a kid in first grade in Japan, I had ADD. No question about that. I couldn't read. Back then, what they did is they allowed me to look out the window whenever I needed to. That was it. So I could go to the window if I needed to and look out, come back and sit down and fidget. And throughout my school years, I never could read. My mother would send me to reading classes. My summers were spent with tutors who were teaching me to read, but they didn't know what the problem was. And it never worked. And it continued. My mother did what she possibly could, what was available at that day. In high school, it took me 5 years and a summer to finally graduate high school when all of my friends had already graduated. They were gone to college. And I think I was probably socially promoted at that point in time. So I thought about, where am I going to go from here? All my friends had gone to college. I didn't know what I would do. I had no skills. My parents had already come to me and said, you need to think about a trade, because that's the only thing that you're going to be able to do. And I thought, there's got to be something else. I know if I just get into college, everything's going to turn around. I'll all of a sudden be able to read well. Everything's going to work well. I won't have ADD. I'm going to be just like the rest of my friends. And I was able to get into Richard Bland College down in Petersburg, 30 miles south from here. They took me on probation. Why? Because I knew exactly what was going to happen. I went into that school and flunked out the first semester. Again, the reading part, the attention part. But I was during Vietnam. You had to go into the service at that point in time, so I had no choice but to join the Navy. I chose as an enlisted person. That was my wake-up call. That was the point at which I realized what was going to happen to me if I didn't get an education. And I spent 4 years in the Navy, really not doing anything else. I never read a book in the Navy. I didn't do anything but Navy things. But I knew I had to go back to college. And I thought about what my dad taught me all my life. And it never occurred to me until the end when I had to teach myself to read. He always taught me, he said, Tom, he said, life's a cinch by the inch. Life is hard by the yard. And I thought about that, and I said, you know what? If I break everything up into inches, I can do anything. And I began to teach myself to read. And how did I go about doing that? I would start reading a particular paragraph, and I wouldn't get 2 sentences into it and wouldn't know what I read. Because I'm transposing words and whatnot. So I'd read it, and my mind would be in something else, thinking about something else. And I would have to stop and go back and reread. So I would read a sentence, stop, ask myself, what do I remember from reading that sentence? If the answer was nothing, reread it. And then I finally got to the point where I could read a paragraph. And then ask myself, what do I remember from reading that paragraph? And if it was nothing, I had to go back and reread it. Eventually what happened was, it became so painful to continue going back and rereading everything. My mind started to focus. But I took everything inch by inch. Beforehand, I would try, the teacher would say, let's read this chapter for a test coming up. Okay, I read the chapter. I would remember absolutely nothing that I read. I would fail the test and say, what more do you want from me? I read the chapter just like you said. It never came to me, no one ever put to me that they meant read the chapter and retain it. I never put those two things together. But it was when I began to take life inch by inch, and you need to do the same thing. Whenever things get tough for you, cut it up into inches, and you can accomplish anything. I've written 9 books. How can I do that? I wrote my first book before I even read my first book. It's much easier to write a book than it is to read it. How did you sit down? Well, it's simple. You start in the middle. And you work out. That's what we do. Most people sit down and say, oh, chapter 1, and what's the first sentence? I gotta write this over 10 times. No, I just start in the middle of the book and work forward and backward. And eventually, you have a quilt, but you put it all together, you have a book. That's the way we do things. We just step right into it, do it, get it done, get it published, and other people can't understand the way we do it. That's because it's so unique. I brought some names of people that you may not be aware of. who were just like us. You hear George Washington? Dyslexic. Leonardo da Vinci? Hear that? Dyslexic. Albert Einstein? Dyslexic. Y'all heard the name Walt Disney? Same thing, just like us. Thomas Edison, the first light bulb. When Thomas Edison was creating these unique new things, he had failed 8,000 times. And his assistant said, we've now failed again 8,000 times in trying to create the light bulb. He said, we haven't failed. We've now found 8,000 things that don't work. That's the way we look at things. We succeeded. Again, we now have 8,000 things that we know don't work. Let's move forward. George Patton, Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, Pablo Picasso, Alexander Graham Bell. Use a telephone? That's where it all began. And you know, everyone know what an iPhone is?
Yes.
Anybody ever hear of Apple computer?
Yes.
Steve Jobs.
Yes.
He's one of us. He started Apple Computer from nothing. He's one of us. I could go on and on from Thomas Jefferson to some of the greatest movie stars, Tom Cruise, on down the line, just like us. We're no different. We just do things differently. You know what I do now? I listen to books. Very difficult for me to read books, to sit down, and with the ADD, I have a hard time staying more than 5 minutes reading. But when I get in a car and I ask people that I'm talking to, I say, do you have an hour a day to sit down and relax and read? The answer is, oh, absolutely not. I'm working too hard. I have too much to do. I have to take the kids to soccer. I have to work all day. So have you ever thought of listening to a book? Because you're probably in your car 45 minutes a day. That's 45 minutes a day you can be reading. And there's so many cool things for you to read. All you have to do is listen. So while you're doing other types of things, maybe riding in a car to the beach with your family, listen to a book. It's a lot of fun. And you start to be able to understand more things and read more things. It's kind of interesting. So I don't want to spend any more time up here. It's such a wonderful experience to be with you. I have a quote that I used in speeches that I give that meant so much to me. And let me get to it here. John Canary, who's a great public speaker, motivator, he once said, when I read this quote, I said, you know, this is us. I was asking myself why I was having these obstacles in my life. Then I suddenly became aware that these obstacles were my life. And I began to enjoy them. I was asking myself why I was having these obstacles in my life. Then I suddenly became aware these obstacles were my life. And I began to enjoy them. Enjoy being different. You're going to be phenomenally successful. I would love to be able to follow every one of you through your school and your life, because the most amazing things are waiting for you. You'll do it differently, but you'll do it none the same. So Pat, thank you for starting the school. It's amazing. For me to be a part of this is amazing. It's the only place I ever felt I belong. So have a wonderful graduation, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Now for the final part of this morning's program, the presentation of the Moving On certificates. These certificates indicate that students have successfully completed their course of study at Riverside School. Will all of the students please stand as I call your name, come to receive your certificates from Mr. Waller and Mr. Longan. Jack Chumbris. Anne Marin Crawford. Margaret Diener. Jackson DiCello. Joni Hopkins. Holly Crumbine. Griffin Osborne. Isabella Puccinelli. Jake Raper. Jonathan Sabera. Andrew Spazovich. Anna Telfian. Avery Van Himbergen. Finn Weisleader. Join me in congratulating the alumni class of 2018.
All right, please, y'all remain standing. Remain standing, remain standing. As I turn the podium to you all, by the authority vested in me by the Riverside School Board of Trustees, I welcome you into the fellowship of Riverside School with all of the privileges and responsibilities attendant thereto. I further charge you to become living examples of the mission of Riverside School by always striving to realize your highest potential. Remember, your Riverside family, wherever in the world, remember your Riverside family wherever in the world you go, and always, in everything you do your best. Parents and families, please wait to greet your graduate until after our 3 youngest classes exit the gymnasium. Ms. Myers, Ms. Mayer, Ms. Walden-Meyer's classes may return to their classrooms. Now we will all exit to the courtyard and have some time for some pictures. Thank you again. Congratulations.